Okay, good night everybody. I'm Nelson Soucasaux, but today I'm not here to play my guitar, but to speak about a very serious problem that is become worse and worse worldwide. Extortionate taxes. So I will read for you a text, an article I wrote 20 years ago in 2006 with the title Tax is Theft. Okay. I begin with two quotes from other authors. The first: the power to tax implies the power to destroy, from an unknown author. The second: this is an unusual North American saying. There are only two certain things in life: death and taxes. Well, if on the one hand, and to some extent, it is reasonable that people contribute paying for some benefits provided to the community they live in by the public administration. But on the other hand, the usual despotic, arbitrary, and abusive features that characterize all tax systems are absolutely immoral, unbearable, and entirely unjustifiable. Therefore, most taxes constitute typical acts of extortion, theft, and many times expropriation. Yes, expropriation. As always, the state is the biggest thief of all. The fact is that the state doesn't even have to produce or invest anything for making the so-called public money between quotes, grow, because the bank account or the wallet of the taxpayers are just there to pillage at will. And once again, the absolutely submissive attitude of most people to these abusive and extortionate taxes is simply astonishing and, to my view, impossible to understand. Though there are often several complaints, the tragic reality is that people end up by accepting to be robbed by the state, and even to work several months in a year only for paying those extortionate taxes. Paragraph. Undoubtedly, the perverse tax system is one of the main instruments through which the state controls everything, robs everybody, and keeps us, all of us, as eternal slaves. And to make things worse, the so-called social democracies once again, social democracies between quotes, often having the cynicism of trying to disguise overtaxation as a way of promoting social justice, once again, between quotes. In their point of view, there is social justice in their point of view. And most people fail to realize that by doing this, what these social democracies really promote is more and more social injustice and, over and above all, growing states tyranny, of which all of us are hostages and slaves. And as you know, there are lots of so-called social democracies, mostly in Europe. Well, people are incapable of seeing that the criteria, once again, quotes, used by the tax system for taxing things is most of the times completely irrational, arbitrary, and despotic. Actually, it only intends to discover more and more ways for stealing increasing amounts of money from people through extortionate taxes. Taking a breath. If they could find a way for taxing the air we breathe, they would certainly do it. The disastrous reality is that those who are in positions of power decide, yes, they decide all by themselves which things deserve, to their point of view, or are to be taxed, how much this taxation is going to be, which new taxes or coercive contributions they are going to create, etc., etc. See, for instance, what happens regarding property tax, at least here in Brazil. Yes, I consider property tax one of the most cruel, unjust, and immoral taxes in all the tax system. Well, all of us, at least here in Brazil, and think that's so in lots of other countries, all of us are condemned to eternally pay abusive and often extortionate yearly taxes for our homes, the places we live in, offices and shops, the places we work in, etc., etc. And the cruel final result of the non-payment of this tax is the expropriation of our properties. Repeating, expropriation of our properties. That means the state behaves as if it were the owner of people's properties, and property tax becomes a kind of eternal mortgage. Yes, property tax becomes a kind of eternal mortgage we have to pay to the state for what really belongs to us. What really belongs to us. Considering all of this, I think it's time to finally scream, tax is theft. Tax is theft. Now two important PSs. PS 1. Please pay attention to this. This text is only a modest and brief introduction to the subject, and in this way it is inevitably incomplete and imperfect. And PS2, as an eternal Beatles fan, I would like to say many thanks to George Harrison, the first musician who wrote a song against tax abuse just 40 years ago. And now, when I am updating this text, 60 years ago, the song is Taxman and is the opening track of the Beatles' legendary album Revolver, released in 1966. Okay, yours, Nelson Soucasaux, gynecologist, writer, and artist. Thank you very much for listening to me and excusing me for my deficient English pronunciation. Good night, everybody.